Hey, let's get into lesson 9. It's multiplying fractions by whole numbers. It's just kind of a continuation of what we did in the last lesson. All right, so it says you can use models and equations to multiply a fraction by a whole number. Let's go right into the first example, example 1. Each card on a trivia game has 6 questions. Each question represents 1/6 of the questions on the card. Caleb correctly answered 4 of the questions. What fraction of the questions on a card did he answer correctly? So it tells us to find 4 times 1/6. One way they show us is to use repeated addition, just like I showed you in the last lesson. Use repeated addition to write an equation. 4 times 1/6 is the same as saying 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6. So if you add all those up, you get 4/6 when you add the like fractions. If I simplify that, I'm going to find a number that divides evenly into 4 and 6. That number is 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 4 times 1/6 simplified is 2/3. Okay. The other way they show us to do this problem is to use models. The number line shows the first 4 multiples of 1/6. So 1/6 is the same as 1 times 1/6. 2/6 is the same as 2 times 1/6. 3/6 is the same as 3 times 1/6. And 4/6 is the same as 4 times 1/6. It says to check, you can use fraction tiles to show 4 times 1/6. So 1/6 4 times equals 4/6, or you line up your 1/3 tiles and you will see that there are 2 of your 1/3 tiles there. Okay, let's move on to the next part. You can use equations and properties of multiplication to multiply a fraction by a whole number. Example 2. Find 5 times 3/10. Identify the 2 whole numbers between which the product lies. Okay, so it says think of 3/10 as a multiple of 1/10. So 5 times 3/10, they say, is the same as 5 times 3 times 1/10, because 3/10 is the same as 3 times 1/10. Okay. Then they use the associative property to group the 5 and the 3 together. So they say 5 times 3 is 15, and then they just bring their 1/10 down. So 15/10. Okay, that's right here. You can't have 15/10 as your answer, so you have to turn your improper fraction into a mixed number. So 10 goes into 5 one whole time. There's 5 left over, and you keep 10 as your denominator. You can't have that as your answer either because it's not the simplified answer. So 5/10 I know is equal to 1/2. So your final answer is 1 1/2. So 5 times 3/10 is 1 1/2. The product lies between the whole numbers of 1 and 2, because 1 1/2 is a little bit more than 1, but a little bit less than 2. So if we were looking at this on a number line, 1 1/2 would be between the whole numbers of 1 and 2. It says, look at the product before it was simplified. The numerator of the product is the same as the product of the whole number and what did we do? We multiplied the whole number times the numerator of the fraction. So we had 5 times 3 equals 15. The denominator of the product is the same as the denominator of the fraction. This is leading you into finding a quicker way to do these problems. Okay, so if I use this thought process right here, I can multiply 5 times 1/8 very quickly because I multiply my whole number times the numerator and keep the denominator. So 5 times 1 is 5, and I keep my denominator of 8. Okay, again, I take my whole number, multiply it by the numerator, and keep my denominator. So 4 times 2 is 8, and I leave my denominator of 3. Now, that can't be my final answer, though, because I have to say 3 goes into 8 2 full times. There's 2 left over, and 3 is my denominator. Okay, so don't forget, you can never report this improper fraction. You need to change it into your mixed number. Also, this is our quick and easy trick for this lesson. You take the whole number, you multiply it by the numerator, and you keep your denominator to find the answer. We should be able to fly through this page using that process. Multiply, write in simplest form, identify the two whole numbers between which the product lies. So we can't forget that part. 8 times 1/5, I have to say 8 times 1 is 8, and then fifths, okay? So then I would say 5. Oh, I don't know why I wrote the 5. I'm sorry. I keep messing up, guys. Okay, I would say 5 goes into 8 one full time. 3 is left over, and 5 is my denominator. So then it says identify the two whole numbers between which the product lies. Well, I know that it's between 1 because that's my whole number, and what comes after 1? 2. So I'm going to say it lies between 1 and 2. Okay. Next, I have 25 tenths. So following that same process, I'm going to say 25 times 1 is 25. Keep my denominator of 10. 10 goes into 25 2 whole times. There's 5 left over, and 10 is my denominator. Can't have that as my final answer, though, because 5 tenths we know is the same as 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, this number lies between 2, because that's my whole number, and what number comes after 2? 3. So this number is between 2 and 3 if I were putting it on a number line. All right, let's move on. 4 times 3/4, super simple. All I have to do is take my whole number times my numerator. 4 times 3 is 12. Keep my denominator of 4. Then I can't have that though, so I'm going to say 4 goes into 12 3 whole times. Now this one's a little bit trickier. I've got to say what two numbers does 3 fall in between? Well, what number's before 3? 2. What number's after 3? 4. So 3 falls between 2 and 4. All right, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to say 5 times 6/8. Whole number times numerator first. 5 times 6 is 30/8. Okay, so now I'm going to say how many times does 8 go into 30? 8 times 4 is 32, so that's too much. So I'm going to say 8 times 3 is 24, so there would be 6 left over with a denominator of 8. How many times, or what number goes into both 6 and 8 evenly? It is a 2, so I'm going to divide both of those by 2. 3, okay, so 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my final answer is 3 3/4. What whole numbers does 3 3/4 fall between? This whole number is going to tell me what the smallest whole number is. A little bit more is 3 3/4. So the next whole number would be 4. So this number falls between 3 and 4. Okay. Moving on to number 7, I have 11 times 2/8. Again, just using what they taught me in the beginning of the lesson, take my whole number, multiply it by my numerator. 11 times 2 is 22/8. Okay, so 8 times 3, we just found out over here, was 24, so that's too much. So 8 times 3 is going to be 20. Oh, 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 2 is 16, so it can go 2 whole times. And to get from 16 to 22, I'm going to add 6 more to that. So 6 is left over, 8s, okay? 2 and 6/8. Well, I already found out up here that 6/8 reduces down to 3/4. Why do the work again if it's already up here? So there you go, 2 3/4. My whole number is going to tell me my lowest whole number this falls between, and then the next number after that is a 3. So this number falls between 2 and 3 if I were plotting it on a number line. Okay. If I'm moving too fast for you, I'm just trying to get through this. You can always back the video up and watch it again. Okay. Number 8, 14 times 2/12. Again, take your whole number times your numerator. 14 times 2 is 28. Keep my 12. 12 goes into 28 2 whole times. There's 4 left over and 12 as a denominator. What is the greatest common factor of 4 and 12? 4. So I'm going to divide both of these by 4. Okay. So that now is going to leave me with 2 and 1/3. The two numbers that 2 and 1/3 falls between is, I'm going to look at my whole number, that's 2, and the next number after 2 is 3. Okay, moving on to number 9, 5 times 2/3, whole number times numerator. 5 times 2 is 10, leave the 3, so thirds. 3 goes into 10, 3 whole times with 1 left over, and we keep thirds. There is nothing to simplify there. It's just plain old 3 and 1/3. And the two numbers that it falls between would be the 3 and then the number after 3, which is 4. All right, final one on this page. 2 times 9/10. All right, 2 times 9, because whole number times numerator. 2 times 9 is 18/10. 10 goes into 18 one full time. There's 8 left over, and we have a denominator of 10. Now, what is the greatest common factor of 8 and 10? It's 2. So I'm going to divide each of these by 2. So I'm going to be left with 1 and 4/5. My whole number tells me the lowest whole number that it is between, and then the number after 1 is 2. So that number falls between 1 and 2. Okay. That's that whole page. Hopefully that kind of solidified your understanding of multiplying a whole number with a fraction. Showed you a little quick trick of how to do it, so hopefully that helps. Let's do the back page, and then you'll be able to try some on your own. All right, number 11. Mario and 3 friends each have 3/4 foot of rope. They need to have 5 feet of rope altogether. Do they have enough? Explain. Okay. All together. So that kind of tells me that I need to add or maybe multiply. He has 3 friends and they each have 3/4 foot of rope. They need 5 foot of rope. Let's figure out what they have first to see if they have enough. Okay. Whole number times numerator is going to equal 9/4. 4 goes into 9, 2 whole times, 1's left over, and you have a 4 as your denominator. And just as I did this, I noticed a mistake that Miss Milam just made. It says Mario and 3 friends, not just 3 friends. So I need to cross this out because I didn't want to multiply by 3. I need to multiply by 4. So let's try that again. 4 times 3/4. Okay. 4 times 3 is 12. Leave the 4 as the denominator. 4 goes into 12 3 whole times. So they have 3 foot of rope. They need 5. Do they have enough? No, they do not have enough. It says explain. I'm not going to write out an explanation, but let's just talk about it. 3 is less than 5, so they don't have enough rope, okay? All right, sorry about making a mistake there. We all do it, okay? All right, number 12. Miss Raymond gave each of her students 1/12 of a box of crackers. She has 30 students in her class. How many boxes of crackers did she need? And it says explain to a friend. Well, you guys are all my friends, so I'll figure it out and then explain it to you. So here we go. All right. She gave 1/12 of a box of crackers to 30 students. So I'm going to figure out 30 times 1/12. Okay. Whole number times numerator. That's going to give me 30/12. 12 goes into 30 2 whole times with 6 left over and 12 as a denominator. 6/12 equals 1/2. So she had 2 1/2 boxes of crackers. Okay. She needs 2 1/2 boxes of crackers to feed everybody, but do you think she could buy a half box of crackers? I don't think so. So if I were writing the answer to this, I would say she needs 3 boxes. Okay. Because she can't really go to the store and say, I only want to buy half of this box. Okay. 2 1/2 is enough to feed every kid, but the store doesn't really sell half boxes. So she's going to need to buy 3 boxes. Okay. Moving on to number 13. Draw a model of a multiplication problem where the product is an improper fraction. Draw another model of a multiplication problem. Hello, I can't talk. Let me start over. Draw a model of a multiplication problem where the product is an improper fraction. Draw another model of a multiplication problem where the product is not an improper fraction. Okay, this is going to be easy. If I had 3 times 1/2, right? That means I'm going to show halves. How many halves do I need? 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to equal 1 whole and 1 half, right? That was an improper fraction because that actually equaled 3 halves. Okay, let's do one that doesn't equal an improper fraction. Let's say 3 times 1/4. Okay, so if I draw my box, I'm going to divide it into fourths. And I'm going to need 3 of those shaded in. So how many fourths do I have? I have 3 fourths. Okay. Down at the bottom, how can changing improper fractions to mixed numbers help you determine between which two whole numbers a fraction lies? Oh, that's super simple because then you can see the whole number. So for example, let's turn back. Let's go to one of these. Right here, 22/8. If I'm just thinking of 22/8 and I want to know what two whole numbers that comes between, off the top of my head, can I do that? No. I mean, I might, but probably not. So if I go ahead and change it into a mixed number, I know that it goes 2 whole times and 6/8 or 3/4 left over. I know that 2 and 6/8 is a little more than 2, but a little less than 3. So that tells me which two whole numbers it falls between. So you don't really have to write all that out there. I talked about it. You're fine. All right. So what you're going to do now is do the homework page. Use all the stuff that I just taught you to do those. And then you are going to go over that with your parents or whoever you live with to make sure you did it right. And then you're going to do the self-check on Schoology if you're in my class. If you're not in my class, have a great day. Anyway, everybody have a great day. See you on the next lesson, which is actually the whole next chapter. So next time I see you, we're going to be in chapter 10. All right. Bye.